diverse weights and diverse measures, both of them are alike abomination unto the Lord. I read this verse and I saw something vitally important about being on one accord and being in agreement and having one standard for our lives. When it says diverse measures and diverse weights, di means two. Verse, if you add an E to it, is like a Bible verse. It's something spoken, something written in a verse. Having two verses means diverse. When we have diverse weights or diverse measures, that means there's two verses of weights, two verses of metals, two voices involved in a weight or a measure. Imagine having two rulers that look and feel the same and are supposed to have the same measurement, but when you pull it out and reach for it, you can see clearly they're about 1/4 of an inch off from the actual 1 foot measurement. And imagine trying to do a project with these two measurements off. The measurement that you take would be off from the measurement someone else takes. And by the end of the project, whatever was trying to be built would be off if the measurements were off from the start. That 1/4 of an inch can become feet at the end of hundreds of cuts, hundreds of things being cut, and hundreds of measures being diverse. Where there is no standard, everyone lives to their own standard, their own measure of righteousness, their own measure of what is right and wrong. We have to have a standard, a unified standard, a oneness, like these measurements on a tape measure are supposed to be. 1 foot is supposed to be 12 inches, but when there's an unevenness, there is no ability to build off of that because the very foundation is wrong. When there is no foundation and unity and agreement of that foundation, there will always be two verses, and there will never be a unity of one verse, of one spoken voice, of one truth. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. The Word of God is the truth. There is only one truth, and that is that Word. And we don't humble ourselves. We operate in a place where we think our verse, our righteousness, and our way is the right way, and any other way is wrong. But when we come to the place of humbling ourselves under His hand, we get rid of our voice, we get rid of any other voice, and we just come into agreement with the verse and the voice of the Lord. And we're in agreement with those who are in agreement with that verse. There's a verse in the end of the book of Judges that speaks about there being no king, and said where there is no king in Israel, everyone did what was right in their own sight. And immediately following that verse in the next chapter of the next book in Ruth, it said there was no king and there was famine in the land. And every place that we don't place Christ as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords in our lives, famine is there already. Famine is in the land where there's no king, when Christ isn't king of individuals' hearts. When he isn't governing their actions, they do what is right in their own sight and what is their own righteousness. And our righteousness is as filthy rags to the Lord. But when we operate in His righteousness is a garment. His righteousness is a breastplate of righteousness. It guards and protects against the evil. And when we operate in His righteousness, it's a protective layer over our heart, guarding against evil things being imparted, so that there is no double standard for a thing, because that will never be true. There is no my truth and your truth. There is only one truth. The truth of the gospel, the truth that Christ died and was raised, and the truth that loving our neighbors as ourselves is the truth. Any other way and any other truth is not the truth. It's a lie. And any individual pushing that message is under deception and is operating under a deceptive place. We all must have Christ as the standard. We can't operate in a diverse manner and expect to operate in the power and authority of the gospel and expect God to show up and show through our lives when we're not in agreement with what He has spoken, with the verse He has spoken, and we're giving ear to other voices other than his. It's like a math equation when there's multiple numbers and there's a common denominator in between and you're trying to get to the end. If the numbers at the bottom don't match, there can be no number at the end. There will be no addition. There will be no product, nothing produced out of that. If we don't have Christ as the common denominator, it doesn't matter what we add up here. It won't amount to anything, because nothing can be produced without being on one accord. So we are to humble ourselves under God's mighty hand. We are to humble ourselves about the truth. When the man asked the angel, "Which side are you on? Are you on our side or are you on the enemy's side?" He said, "Neither. I am the captain of the host of the army of the Lord. I'm on the Lord's side." We need to be on the Lord's side. We don't need to be on any fleshly side of a thing. We need to be on his side and in his truth. How can two walk together unless they agree? We cannot walk together unless we agree. We will not walk together unless there's an agreement. And the agreement has to be about the truth. The early church was all on one accord. They had all things in common, and they had no lack for anyone. But when we desire and go after our own gain and not look for the best of others, we begin to look in a way that is selfish, desire selfish things. We need to be on one accord with the Lord so that we can be on one accord on this earth and have his flow of his power be greater and be magnified in this earth. Because two is greater than one. One can chase 1,000, but two can chase 10,000. In the agreement that is made on this earth, there can be changes in the heavenly realm. But that will never happen if we are having diverse measures and diverse weights and balances. We all have to humble ourselves to operate in the truth, to get rid of the diverse, to make it one verse, and that verse to be the Word of God, which is the truth, the only truth. And every word that proceeds out of his mouth is true, is good, is righteous, is holy, and every other thing is a lie and is mixed with things that are tainted by the fall and by an evil origin. Let his word be truth. Let everything else be let go of. And let us operate in one accord with the Lord. If Baal be God, then let him be God. But if God is God, then let him be the king of your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And let your whole life be in his hands.